Hello, my name is Charit ProcelS10 and I'm gonna talk about the Cold War. The Cold War involved the US and its allies of the Western world, mostly Britain, France, and Western Germany to name the big players of the USSR, which included Russia, Hungary, Czech Republic, Poland, and the Baltic states. Nuclear weapons were an integral part of the war. It was part of a policy to have an arsenal of weapons larger than the other so as to weather an attack. It is a policy often referred to as MAD, Mutual Assured Destruction. This was because the arsenals were so powerful that both sides would be wiped off the face of the earth if a war developed. Almost 8 trillion was spent by both sides on weapons alone between 1945 and 1990. It ended for a number of knock-on effects. Gorbachev, the leader of the Soviet Union, wanted to follow a policy of greater freedom for the Eastern European states under the control of the USSR. This was perceived as weak on his part, and he was toppled by his own people. The other members wanted more freedom, and they achieved this, most memorable of which was the collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1990. There were also economic factors. For example, the USSR always had an issue with food, but never invested properly, as they were competing of the US in heavy spending areas such as industry, space, rare, and the arms race. One of the most important dates was in February 4 to 11 in 1945, who was the Yalta Conference. This conference was a meeting between Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin to decide what would happen at the end of the war. The topics discussed included the partitioning of Germany, the fate of Poland, the United Nations, and the German reparations. In May 8 of 1945, the victory in Europe as Germany surrendered to the Russian army. Also in this year, 1945, the 6th of August, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The second atomic bomb on Nagasaki was the 8th of August on the same year. June 5 of 1947 was the Marshall Plan. This was a program of economic aid offered by the United States to any European country. The plan was rejected outright by Stalin, and any Eastern Bloc country considering accepting aid was reprimanded severely. Consequently, the aid was only given to the Western European countries. The term Cold War refers to a war that consists of indirect conflict rather than direct conflict, a war with casualties but no battles or armed fighting. Capitalized, it refers to the state of affairs between the US and the USSR from 1945 until the 1980s, marked by espionage, proxy wars, an arms race, space race, and cultural propaganda. However, the term is original usage in the 14th century by Don Manuel Juan, a Cold War, Guerra Fría, meant a war without victor or honor. He was specifically considered the Christian Islamic conflict of that time. War that is very fierce and very hot ends either with death or peace, whereas a Cold War neither brings peace nor confers honor on those who wage it. And now I'm gonna talk about the capitalism and socialism, how these two economic systems works. Capitalism is the social system which now exists in all countries of the world. Under this system, this means for producing and distributing goods. The land, factories, technology, transport system, etc. are owned by a small minority of people. We refer to this group of people as the capitalist class. The majority of people must sell their ability to work in return for a wage or salary, who we refer to as the working class. The working class are paid to produce goods and services, which are then sold for a profit. This profit is gained by the capitalist class because they can make more money selling what we have produced than we cost to buy on the labor market. In this sense, the working class are exploited by the capitalist class. The capitalists live off the profits they obtain for exploiting the working class, whilst reinvesting some of their profits for the further accumulation of wealth. Adam Smith was the capitalism founding father. He was a century philosopher and political economist. The socialism is a way of organizing a society in which major industries are owned and controlled by a government rather than by individual people and companies. This means that the government owns and controls the means of production, as factories and distribution of goods. Socialism is a stage of society in Marxist theory, transitional between capitalism and communism, and distinguished by unequal distribution of goods and paid according to work done. One of their main people was Karl Marx, Leon Trotsky, Charles Hall, Charles Fourier, William Thomson, Pierre-Joseph Proudhon, etc. Now I'm going to interview my sister Consuelo ProcelS. He is 43 years old. What's your opinion of the Cold War?
It was a war that had no point because it was after the World War II, and after all this death was not necessary. That's my opinion.
What countries were the world leaders during this period?
Soviet Union and the United States.
Why did countries who were allies during the wars become enemies afterwards?
The Soviets in communist ideology state that capitalist country world thoroughly tried to destroy them, and the U.S. believed that the communists wanted to reign over the world.
Where did the Cold War take place?
Germany, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and Bulgaria.
What opinion did the general public have of the Cold War?
I think they were scared of the war.
What type of weapons did the two world powers have at their disposal?
Nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons.
In my opinion of the Cold War, I think it was incredibly pointless and time-consuming. It was 46 years of tension for no reason, because there was no war. However, in the United States and Soviet Union spent billions on a war that never even happened. Not to mention keep billions of people in panic. There was no point in it. Communists and capitalists, why can't they just leave each other alone? But that's just my opinion. On the other hand, in my opinion about capitalism and socialism, I think they are somewhat opposing schools of thought in economics. The central arguments in the socialism versus capitalism debate are about economic equality and the role of government. This means that socialists believe in economic inequality is bad for society, and the government is responsible for reducing it via programs that benefit the poor. For example, free public education, free exercise, healthcare, social security for the elderly, higher taxes on the rich. On the other hand, capitalists believe that the government does not use economic resources as efficiently as private enterprises do, and therefore society is better off with the free market determining economic winners and losers.